Welcome to the Deanne and You Show. My name is Deanne Oja Ali, and I am the author of Mrs. Fraud and You. Will you be the victim or victor when she comes knocking? Today's a very special day for me, simply because I get the opportunity to talk about something I'm very passionate about with three incredible people. And we have so much to discuss about fraud and identity theft. So I really don't want to waste any time, but let me just quickly mention who I have on the show. I have Constable Jennifer George of the RCMP of Ontario, as well as Staff Sergeant Ron Boyce, and I have to have a victim who is now a victor in my eyes, and her name is Lisa Smith-Maxim. And I really hope you will get out of this show today some incredible information. You and I have come a long way with this story. I know when you first met, you told me the story and how you became a victim, and you're a victim multiple times, and we'll talk about that. But you really didn't want to be in my book.
No, as a victim, no.
However, she did put the name of her company in the book, which sort of surprised me, but now, after getting to know each other for some time, you became an advocate with me in sharing these stories. You also will be one of the, you'll also be featured in my other book called Mrs. Fraud Heroes, because I think you're a hero, I believe you're a hero for stepping up and wanting to speak about this publicly. So thank you for that. Mm. So we have so much to talk about, so let's talk about the main story, which is about social insurance fraud. So just tell us briefly what happened.
Well, the first time that it happened, I received a notice from Service Canada that I owed them more money, and I didn't understand why. I called the office, and it was in respect to a T4. So instead of going around with my picture to every employer, which they said I had to do, and get a letter, I decided just to pay the $3,500. It happened again, and when I contacted Service Canada, they got heavily involved for 4.5 years of my life. That also created a very large headaches. Nobody likes Service Canada in their life. However, we found out another fraudulent T4 to the point where the company didn't exist, and neither did the address, because Service Canada goes to every address that you state that you did not work for them. Having said that, they also decided that because of the extent of it, because it wasn't only once, it wasn't only twice, it was actually 3 times, Service Canada took it upon themselves to give me a new name, new number, and a new SIM card, which is actually unheard of in Canada. It's not something that happens regularly. As the victim, what a lot of people don't know and realize, when they actually do catch these people, if they catch the people, which is very difficult to do, it's a $500 fine.
$500, that's it.
That is it. I am out thousands of dollars. My identity has been tarnished. My credit rating is so far down the toilet, it's not funny. And the only thing that ever will happen is a $500 fine. So as a victim, it's extremely frustrating.
Let's go back to the name. So Lisa, the name, you literally had to change your name. I mean, when you get married or divorced, it's very difficult, the process to change your name, but you literally had to change your name.
Yes.
You know, changing your name is quite a task in its own, even when you're married or getting divorced. So I know Service Canada had to do some, they forced you, in a sense, to change your name. They did it for you.
Correct.
So they did a slight change, no? You really wouldn't mention much, because of course we don't want to put your information out there even more than what you've already been victimized. But it is a very lengthy process, is it not? Going through this whole nightmare?
4.5 years of Service Canada being in my life, not something that you want. However, I was lucky. The investigator was very sympathetic, very helpful, was in constant contact, told me the steps she was doing, and she let me know exactly what was going on. So that part was very helpful. However, it's still not something that anybody would want to go through. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to be honest. So it's something that I think that people really need to make sure that they're fully aware of things, such as when you apply for a credit card, for example. Although it states on there to put your SIN number on there, do not do it. I have been told by Service Canada that they cannot actually decline your credit based on you refusing to give your SIN number. Your SIN number is attached to so much of your information.
It's like a thumbprint. It is.
It's exactly that, and because of that, it's something where anybody can get anything they want. The internet is such a wonderful place where you can get so much information that I just advise people to tell as little as possible about yourself. Don't give so much information. Don't tell them where you live. Don't tell them the area that you live in. When you're on the internet and you're applying for certain things, they ask you for your city. I don't give my city anymore. I will tell them I'm in a GTA. That's good enough.
Well, that brings up a point in terms like the geotags. A lot of people into Instagram and so forth don't realize, in talking about location, the
That's right.
geotags will track where you are. And you know, the fraudsters out there, this is homework for them. They live and they breathe this.
That's right.
And they will find you if you need to find you, regardless if you give your name or not.
That's right.
You know, I just want to quickly talk about, you are an HR consultant expert. And we talk about some information that people give out when we talk about the social insurance. The reason why I brought this up, because it is illegal for someone to ask for your social insurance when you're applying for a job, correct? They have a certain
Correct.
number of days, I believe it's like 6 days, before the employer can ask the employee to make sure that they have the social insurance number for their payroll, correct?
Actually, an employer has no right to ask you for your SIN number until you have actually been employed and you're on your first day of orientation. And at that point, they're supposed to take a photocopy of it and put it in your file, so that what they can do is if ever there's a question of any sort, whether it's Service Canada or another agency, it's in your file and they can pull it out immediately.
So what we're saying is, basically, don't be so willing to give out your information, because this, I mean, we were talking before earlier about, you know, the urgency when you get some of these emails or phone calls, the way people threaten you, speak to you, it seems like, you know, you get scared, intimidated, and this is why people are willing to give the information. Do you sense that happens to you as well? I know nobody can intimidate you, Lisa, I know that. But
Not anymore.
we're the stronger ones who understand this, but we still sometimes forget who we are, and, you know, we can become intimidated at a certain point, and vulnerable at a certain level as well.
Absolutely. It's-
Depends the pressure you're under, right?
It does, and I know that when I was going through this, I was told I had a certain amount of telephone or cell phones in a particular company, which is a company that I wouldn't deal with. I was also told I had credit cards. I was told I had this, I had that. And unfortunately, the legwork in order to make sure that you're not actually connected and responsible for paying these bills is a very lengthy process. And it's a very good thing that a lot of companies now actually have a fraud department. Banks have it. Cell phone companies actually, believe it or not, have it. And in dealing with them, it's something where I believe that work with them, but make sure that you're actually dealing with somebody that is from that particular department and the fraud department. A lot of times you'll get phone calls on, well, I need to identify you. So in order to identify you, you need to tell me your address. No, you called me, you tell me my address, and I'll tell you if you're right. Too many people give out that information, and bingo, you don't know who you're speaking to. So until you can actually have a legitimate phone number to call in order to verify all of this information, it is extremely intimidating, and the average person will just give out that information, and Bob's your uncle, and the next thing you know, you're out thousands of dollars.
Once you're a victim, you are subject to be a victim multiple times, and you are one of them. And just briefly, how many times, Lisa?
3.
3 times. And how many times has your car been broken into because you believe and have been told that you are a targeted victim? You are targeted for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, somebody seems to think I have the life that's worth stealing, and by all means, they can have it with the bills that go with it. My vehicle was broken into 3 times within a 2-month period. Unfortunately, they weren't able to catch the people that were doing it, although they did take fingerprints off windows and such. But the other part of it that's it's very frustrating. If those people haven't been caught, their fingerprints are not in the database.
Yes.
If your fingerprints aren't in the database, they can't catch you. So when you have somebody that's very good at it, they are just that. They're very good at it. I have a vehicle that's got black soot all over the place, but it's extremely frustrating when you're a victim. It's very frustrating. When you have a perfect credit rating that's now no longer perfect and you want to go on with your life.
I want also people to know that Lisa has a background in so many things, you know, in law, also a private investigator. And so she's very versed on this. And for myself as well, I mean, I've been targeted so many times. And of course, being in whether you're in professional life or whether you be in a media life, you're targeted all the time.
That's right.
I don't know why they think our life is so glamorous, but it comes with a big price.
That's right.
But that's basically what it is, and we don't understand why this happens. Maybe I know, maybe Jennifer or Ron can shed some light into that, but why are certain people being targeted? And it's not anything personal, it's all really comes down to money. I know they have a price on us, you know, like in the old days.
But I was also told one of the things by Service Canada was way back in the day you had to give your social insurance number for certain applications and stuff. Previously, when you applied for a job, you had to give your social insurance number. That's been obviously stopped, but even because it goes back way back when, people do get those files and they go from there.
Lisa, how could we get in touch with you if you want to find some more information about yourself or your business? You know, you'll be coming back on my show soon to do launch your business. We would leave that for there. But how could we get in touch with you if they need to get in touch with you for any reason?
They can always call my office, which is the staff room, at 888-716-7791. And I'd be more than happy to actually try and help people if I can. But again, I'm pretty stickler on what and how much I give out.
So I want you to look out there actually, and just send a message out on behalf of, you know, as a victim becoming a victor now. Just send a message out, please.
The message, by all means, make sure that you're fully aware of who you're speaking to, for one. Verify who they are in the company, and do not under any circumstances be intimidated on stating, you know, you owe a bill. Find out for sure that that's actually a bill that you owe.
Well said, well done. Lisa, you know, as usual, you know, she tells me don't call her Lisa.
No.
Lisa, you know what, we've been so much through, and we have a lot of work we have to do in terms of being advocates and putting the message out there. And I know you have my back and I have your back in this quest, a mission that we have. So thank you so much, you know, with Lisa Smith-Maxim, and we will be right back on the DNA News Show. Did you know that in 2009, that identity theft was officially declared the crime of the 21st century? How do you avoid confrontation between Mrs. Fraud and you? By arming yourself with knowledge and being aware of who and what Mrs. Fraud really is. Mrs. Fraud and You is your guidebook to helping you understand and become aware of the serious, devastating threat that lies around every corner. Every year, thousands of people's lives are destroyed by the ruthless tactics of scam artists like Mrs. Fraud, and you are her constant target. Familiarize yourself with the schemes and scams that can wreak devastation on your dreams and lifelong plans. Protect yourself, your business, your children, and your elders. The only difference between being a victim and a victor is the preventive measures you choose to take. Be prepared for when Mrs. Fraud comes knocking. When it comes to Mrs. Fraud and You, knowledge is power. The choice is yours. Would you be the victim or the victim? Reserve your copy today. Welcome back, and I am with Staff Sergeant Ron Boyce. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deanne.
Thank you, Ron. Ron, you work with the community.
Yes, right now I'm assigned to Divisional Policing Service with Toronto Police.
And how is your involvement in terms of fraud identity theft? Is that an area that you specialize in? I know it's a everyday common topic and theme. However, is that something you specialize in?
Myself, no, but the Toronto Police Service has a fraud unit. Also, our 17 divisions have smaller units that handle and intake fraud occurrences in Toronto.
Now, the reason I ask you that, I do know, a lot of the officers, a few of them in that department, but I want people to understand as well, it's not only the fraud department, because it's everyday life for you in your station, in your posts, in the community that you serve as well.
Yes, well, the message that we want to get out there to the community is that it's very important that they protect their identity and that they're very cognizant of the scams that are going around the city right now, and in fact, throughout Canada.
So what are some of the scams that you see in the community?
Well, one of the ones that's it was proliferating quite a bit in 2014 is one that where a company calls and they identify themselves as a Canada Revenue Agency. Now, it may sound like a legitimate government agency, but it's not. And they tend to prey on new Canadians, new immigrants. They tell them that they've done an audit of their taxes, and that the audit has turned up that they owe them monies. But it's the way they want payment is what I want the community to be completely aware of, that, so that they know that it's an illegitimate company. What they say is that they want payment by going to corporations like Home Depot and Lowe's and buying gift cards, and then calling them and giving them the numbers on the back of the gift cards, and then they cash it.
And that brings up a point, simply because you see this in the community, and first of all, Canada Revenue will not call you CRA to begin with or contact you, just like the banks would. But to
Absolutely.
think and believe that the form of payment is through gift cards or store cards, it's crazy, it's ridiculous. But yet people who are so naive don't know the system or don't understand these, who are newcomers or the
Yes.
language barriers and so forth, get intimidated, and they do it.
Yes, and it's understandable because the victims in these, most victims in these cases are new Canadians. And when they're told that they'll be deported or that the police will show up at their homes, they develop a sense of fear, and they often comply with the request of the company. It's only later on when they make subsequent requests after they've made one payment that they think, no, this can't be right, and then they turn up at a division and report the incident. But at that time, it's too late.
Well, is it not, am I saying this correct, in the fact that these are all tests to see how far you will go?
Yes, and one of the things that they put out there is this sense of urgency for you to pay. This sense
It can
that
be very intimidating.
It has to be done right
Yes,
now.
yes.
And of course, it just, anxiety develops within the person, and for whatever reason, they end up taking some action and complying. And we just want them to be aware that if they have anything like that, feel free to contact any division in Toronto. In fact, even contact the RCMP if they feel more comfortable calling them, the OPP. We all have fraud units. We can all provide them very important information that will help prevent them from being victims of frauds.
Now, one of the reasons why I wanted you on this show, I wanted to know from different backgrounds. You're working with the youth in the community right now as well, correct?
Yes, one of my mandates is to work with youth within marginalized community. We have several programs that are going right now that help youth, and we have officers throughout the 17 divisions that organize programs and assist youth.
What are you all doing for the youth? And one of the reasons being is because the minors are the number one targets, actually, to tell you the truth, and the seniors, because no one is protecting them. So we have to do our, it's our duty as leaders to educate them as well. We in turn will educate their parents. So there are programs involved that you have there to teach and educate the community and the youth?
Well, our program for youth, in terms of them being victims of fraud, I haven't seen a lot of that. But what we do try to do is to develop after-school programs, working with informal leaders within the community.
Keeping them busy?
keeping them busy.
Just keeping them busy out of trouble.
There are many programs
Yes.
that are going. One such program I can mention that I'm very familiar with is the Trust 15 program for young men and young women.
What does that entail? I've never heard of it.
It's run by Marcia Brown, a very active community leader, and it serves young women between the ages of, I'd say, 14 and 17, and she brings in mentors such as myself and other role models to help guide and teach these young people and direct them, help them with their resumes, and there are many other programs like that throughout the city.
So what have you seen in terms of other types of identity theft in the, since you have been in your post or since you started, or just as a human being to begin with? Or which is the one that bugs you the most, I should say? Because there's so many of them, but is there one that really drives you crazy to say?
Well, I'll have to say your previous guest, identity theft is just, it's extremely damaging. If you lose $100, it's $100. But identity theft is yourself. It's something that takes years to repair. It's something that people today, especially those who use the internet, conduct business on the internet, making purchases on the internet, the information that they're providing these companies of these products, sometimes these products don't even exist.
Well, let's mention that for a moment. I recently saw something, I'll be talking to Jennifer about this as well, but on one of the shows talking about sports memorabilias, how authentic they look, and you can't really tell the difference.
Absolutely. I'd say there are a few companies that deal in sports memorabilia in Toronto. One of them, I think it's called Legends of Sports in Toronto. They're a legitimate company. But there are those who, with the computer graphics today, can reproduce anything. So when you're purchasing something on the internet, you're taking a risk.
Oh, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Anything.
If you're not sure who you're dealing with, it's a risk. And I tell the community to exercise caution when they're making these purchases and giving out all this information, their credit cards. It can come back and really bite you.
It's a nightmare. I can't even begin to express what type of nightmare it is, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. One of the things that I would recommend that people do is that they contact the two of the credit bureaus in Toronto, TransUnion and Equifax, and if they are concerned about their identity being stolen, they would want to red flag their name. There's a nominal fee to this, of course, but it's a protection that really works. And they'll alert you to people who are opening new accounts with your name and your information.
The reason how my book came about is I am a member of a group where I have protection, and one of the things I had to do is I've been targeted many times, and also coming from the financial industry, but I did also contact Equifax and TransUnion and put an alert on my account, and of course Lisa has a red flag on her name specifically. Yes. So someone will contact you if you're looking for anything. But have you ever been a victim? Any kind of victim? Whether it be banking, anything?
Well, I can't
I
tell
mean,
you.
almost everybody has been, so I can't say.
I don't know how it happened, but I can tell you several years ago, someone tried to take out a credit card at Home Depot in my name in Alberta. And because I have a flag, and not from TransUnion or Equifax, but through one of the financial institutions here in Toronto, I was alerted to the fact that someone's trying to take out a credit card. How they got it in Alberta, I have no idea. But that just tells you that I'm a police officer and I'm still at risk of having my identity stolen. So that's why people have to be so cautious.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that happens is all about your information. It's where they get the information. And you would have the slightest clue of how it happened, where it happened, what they got. Because for a mortgage broker or mortgage agent, their date of birth is like their thumbprint too as well.
Yes.
Because that's something they will not give out. But again, a police officer, most police officer, it intrigues me to know it's not like the regular banking, they take out money from your bank account or your credit card. They got information to create,
Yes.
brave enough to create an account in your name in a different province, that
Yes.
is.
So what essentially happens is that they may not have all the information, but if your name is out there, then from another website, they may see that you received an award, and it's on another website, And so it's a collection of data.
They do their homework.
What happens. And with that
Yeah.
collection of data, it gives them
is.
some indication of where you are, and then they make the attempts. They may not have the address, they may not have the SIN number, but they can still make the application.
And there's lots of programs online, and the internet is amazing, but it's amazing what you can find out there about someone.
Absolutely.
Although I was on a do not call list, they could still find my home address, although I had a PO box number.
Yeah.
So, it amazed me how sometimes they would get a hold of me. How could we get in touch with you or, anyone in terms of reporting?
Well, depending on where they live in the city of Toronto, they can contact either our general number at 416-808-2222, or if they're aware of their local division, they can contact them. Myself, I work at our Division of Policing Support Unit. If they have any questions, they can contact me there through our general number, and also they can reach our fraud unit, which will handle more of a larger scale frauds, commercial fraud, but feel free to contact any division at any time if they have any questions, and officers will be able to assist them.
Thank you. So if you can just give out a message there to everyone out there, just look out there, Ron, and say to them, as a police officer, just tell them what you want to say, really be strong and do their part.
Yeah, I would say it's vitally important to keep your identity secure. Do not leave information like your driver's license or any of your credit cards in your vehicles, because you never know when you could be a victim of that. But more importantly, be careful on the internet. Cybercrime is the new place for these criminals to hide with the anonymity that they have behind a computer to prey on others.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming from a staff sergeant, again, thinking that, he's invincible, he knows he's not invincible, but no one is. And if they can get his information to want to go and open an account in a different province, think of it internationally, where else you can also have a status that you don't even know about.
That's right.
So I want to say, just keep your ears open. There's more coming up, and we'll be right back with our RCMP officer, Jennifer George.
Thank you.
Did you know that in 2009 that identity theft was officially declared the crime of the 21st century? How do you avoid confrontation between Mrs. Fraud and you? By arming yourself with knowledge and being aware of who and what Mrs. Fraud really is. Mrs. Fraud and You is your guidebook to helping you understand and become aware of the serious, devastating threat that lies around every corner. Every year, thousands of people's lives are destroyed by the ruthless tactics of scam artists like Mrs. Fraud, and you are her constant target. Familiarize yourself with the schemes and scams that can wreak devastation on your dreams and lifelong plans. Protect yourself, your business, your children, and your elders. The only difference between being a victim and a victor is the preventive measures you choose to take. Be prepared for when Mrs. Ford comes knocking. When it comes to Mrs. Ford and you, knowledge is power. The choice is yours. Would you be the victim or the victim? Reserve your copy today.
Yeah, Joey. You should have.
And we're back, and this is the exciting part because I'm so thrilled to have Constable Jennifer George of the RCMP of Ontario again on the show.
Yes.
And this time, she dressed up for me.
Thank you for having me back.
And thank you so much for putting on the uniform. I
Oh.
think it just looks amazing on you.
It's a different look than last time.
It
that's
is
for
a different
sure.
look from last time. We have the
Yes.
hat, the gloves, everything else. Jennifer, we have been, since the last show, we've been in so much contact for so many different reasons, and thank you so much for picking up the phone when I call.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know, everybody calls me because of what's happening, and then in turn I call you and say, well, how can we help this person? So thank you so much for that. But there's so much happening, so give us some of the updates since the last time we spoke. What's happening out there?
Sure. First, I just want to thank you very much for having me on the show at
Anytime.
Fraud Prevention Month,
Yes.
which is March, and there are a lot of campaigns out there, especially in people's local communities. I know on Twitter right now, I spoke of the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre last time.
Yes.
If you go hashtag FPM for Fraud Prevention Month 2015, you'd be able to get a lot of information about the scams that have been discussed today and that we'll be talking about as well right now, which include something called mystery shoppers. Have you ever heard
Yes.
of that scam before?
Well, I haven't heard of the scam, but I know I was signed up to be a mystery shopper, and I never just did it. I didn't do it. But it's interesting. Tell us a bit more about how that works.
Sure. It's people looking for a job may see mystery shopper advertisements through employment opportunities online, in the newspaper, possibly even being offered over the phone. And what they'll do is they'll say that you are going into different companies to see the quality of service that you
That's
receive.
correct.
What they'll do though is send you a check, and the check will be for a certain amount, and then they'll request you to go use that money that this check is supposedly for. You'll spend the money. Often, for example, you may go into a Walmart, or you may go into purchase things at different types of stores like Lowe's or Home Hardware. And then a portion of the money, they'll request you to do a quality service at a money wire transfer company. So you'll go into the money wire transfer and transfer the money. So you're transferring the money actually to the criminals. And what happens is that check is going to bounce, so you've transferred your own money. And
That's
this is
right.
a job that is exciting. It sounds really too good to be true. So if you're going to take this type of job, make sure you do your due diligence, research them, and ensure that they're a credible company that offers those services.
Let's add to that. I mean, yes, I know of the scam. In terms of anyone who will send you a check to begin with, because it's not only for the mystery shoppers, it's for other scams as well. And say, you know, they want you to go and cash it, and then right away get the difference, is what it is, in real cash, and then send it out to them. It happens in quite a few other scams as well. That's a key thing, you know, even insurance money or, you know, wire transfer. This is what they do. But the urgency that you have to do it right away. And by the time the bank knows, it's a couple of days.
Right. Well, fraudulent checks are often used in many of the scams. One that pops into my mind is a lot of the time lottery scams.
Yes.
So they'll send you a check to pay the taxes for the lottery you just won. So you're thinking, well, they've sent me the money for the taxes, so this might be legitimate. And then often victims will use their banks to see if this scam is legitimate or not. So they'll take the check to the bank, see if it's cashed, wait for the check to clear within 5 business days, take that money, and then send it to who they believe they won the lottery from. But the bank actually can take anywhere between 30 days to 90 days to clear that check. And if they find that there's no funds associated with that check, then you as the person that's withdrawn those funds are responsible for that amount of money. So, for example, if you spent $3,000 to receive your lottery winnings, you are responsible for that $3,000 that you've taken out of your account. So,
At what point does the case or the investigation come to your department?
So our department with the RCMP in Ontario works a little different than all the other provinces. Here, you have the local police to take a look at your frauds, and that's where you would be reporting them. So for example, you had Toronto on today, you would go to Toronto and report that. If there are large international type scams, frauds, then we would definitely take a look at them and see if it meets our mandates and investigate that, as well as we also investigate crimes against the government and those types of frauds. So in terms of the mass marketing type fraud that we're talking about
Let's
today.
explain what that means. first
Mass
of all.
marketing fraud is fraud obviously committed on a large number of people by phone, internet, or by mail. And
It's that non-personal one-to-one connection, and that's the key part.
Yes.
Most of this is not one-on-one. It's
Right.
behind closed doors, because you don't know who's behind it. Is that correct? in
that's
saying that?
correct, and they're usually the ones that contact you first, right? You always have to question who's contacting you. And that's definitely mass marketing fraud. And those types of frauds are, we recommend you contact your local police, as well as the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is the RCMP, OPP, and Competition Bureau, a joint task force that will take the information that the victim provides and then provide it to the investigators to assist them with their investigation to locate the criminals, as well as assist with the court proceedings. So it's a great place to report your frauds. They also will provide the victim with assistance in terms of who they should be contacting. For example, earlier today with identity theft, it was a good idea to contact the credit bureaus of Canada, and they would also identify other places that it would be good to contact. So they're a good contact place.
That's awesome. One of the mass marketing frauds is romance scam.
Yes.
Huge. I mean, I get them every day, and I'm sure as a police officer, forget the police officer part of it, or RCMP officer, or any officer, as a person, depends on, if you're on social media or not, you are targeted. I get them every single day.
Well, the romance scams really, really bother me, just as a person myself, because it doesn't only prey on you financially, but it preys on you emotionally. A lot of the victims I've spoken to,
Physically too,
Yeah.
because again, you go into this depression.
I imagine
then you-
afterwards, I can't even imagine what the different victims that I've spoken to have gone through, because they have believed that they have found someone that they can confide in, someone that possibly is their lifelong partner. And
They
then
call
in-
them soulmates.
Yes.
They're looking for their soulmates,
Yes.
as someone just to listen to them.
And then in the end, they've taken their money, they're no longer in contact with that person, and they feel very, these people I speak with, embarrassed because they have fallen for these types of scams, and the financial loss in a lot of these scams can be anywhere from $50 to thousands and thousands, like $500,000. And these relationships last anywhere between a few days to a few years.
Well, I've actually heard of somewhere it went into the millions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a few people where they investigated that was public. It's over $1 million. And some of them are still caught up in it
Right.
because they just don't want to let go of it.
No, and again, that's the emotional part, and these scammers only want one thing, and it is the money, and it's very,
And they're very aggressive.
Very sad.
extremely aggressive. What have you seen since we last spoke, seem to be the more common ones that you're seeing more and more that's come into your office?
to our office. It's some of the ones that we've talked about already, as well as,
Well, let's mention, I know Ron spoke about the CRA, which is what we were going to talk about. Is that one that you're seeing fairly common, or you're getting reports of in your office?
a number
Because
of-
it's tax season
a
time
number
coming
of
up?
complaints. Yes,
Yes.
very important to note, because April's coming, and these criminals definitely target the time of year. It's tax time, so they pretend to be a Canadian Revenue Agency, and then what they'll do is they will say that you have money due, And not only are they preying on immigrants, as Ron had mentioned, but they're preying on everyone. So if the immigration angle doesn't work for them, they will then work it to say, if you don't pay this money right now, within 24 hours, this is what I need you to do.
Again, being very, very aggressive.
Yes, that's a
very
huge
aggressive,
red
yes.
flag. As well, they will say that the RCMP or CSIS will be coming to your door and arresting you.
Please just mention who CSIS is.
It's a security organization here in Canada.
Very high profile.
Yes, that a lot of people may or may not be aware of, but it is very threatening, and they do that to legitimize the claim,
Yes.
as well as scare people into paying that money. And if that does happen, you should just hang up on the people. Don't contact them and don't send them money, because the RCMP, just like you had mentioned earlier, banks, Canadian Revenue Agency would not call you with those types of claims. They would, if it was that serious, come to your door, speak with you.
And then, of course, you have to be cautious who you open your door to as well.
Well, and that's a whole nother, yes, front door who you're dealing with, right?
Absolutely. You really don't know who is behind the face.
That's right.
And you know, one of the reasons why I became Mrs. Fraud and You, because of course Mr. Fraud was taken with a different Indian movie, but that's another story. But again, coming from the banking side, the Mrs. Fraud can be a man, woman, or a young person.
Right.
It could be a Mr. Fraud. There is no identity to this person. When you see the pictures online, it's not who you think it is. Jennifer, this is Fraud Prevention Month. What are some of the campaigns you're aware of that's currently happening in the city, or the RCMP office is involved in, with maybe the financial crime units?
Right, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has a great program right now. They have daily tips that are available on social media through their websites. You will see a scam discussed every day. So for example, today is talking about the antivirus scam, which is pop-up messages or a telephone call saying that you have a virus on your computer.
I've had those.
Yes, many people have, and what they're trying to do is get your initial information, your name, your contact information, where you live, and then they're also trying to get you to pay money to get that virus off your computer. There is no virus on your computer. They would not be able to tell. And they won't stop there. If they don't get your money or your banking information so that they can obtain your money, they will actually then try and get access to your computer. So don't ever trust anyone who's called in on the other end of the line that's asking you for them to be able to access your computer, because they are just trying to obtain your contacts as well as your banking information so that they get your money. So that's a very common scam that people should be aware of, and I'm sure a lot of people have received those phone calls or those pop-ups on the computer.
Absolutely. And what happens there is it's very simple. They will call you wanting to get access, and then they blank your computer. It goes blank, and then, no, what are you going to do? So of course now you have to give them access to get back online. And again, it's just they're trying to get into your head to see where your head is and how vulnerable you are, because that's basically what they're doing, to see how far they can get with you.
They're very good at what they
They're
do.
very good at what
Yes.
they do.
Yes.
Absolutely, they're very good at what you do. But again, coming to this, the youth of today are so knowledgeable about some of these things, And again, we want to make sure we're not targeting anyone here, but it could be anyone who's out there can be a victim or can be the fraudster as well. So you really don't know who you're talking to.
Right.
Somebody could befriend you, like you and I, but we don't know down the road.
What their motivation is,
That they
right?
And sometimes it's, again, people complain and say it could be their family member, it can be a neighbor, it can be a co-worker, it can be anyone. You just don't know who to trust.
That's right, especially when they're contacting you. So especially online, it's very good to keep it very general and not specific, and only trust the people that you know prior to getting on to the internet. So.
Yes. And one of the things quickly to talk about is I know the youth are very willing always to give out their information because they don't know any better. And it's something we have to be advocates and say, no, you cannot, protect yourself and have, the parents, we have to educate the parents as well. How can we get in touch with you, or your office?
Well, we suggest in terms of fraud, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, to always report there. In Ontario, for the RCMP, we have a central intake unit. If you believe it's a large-scale fraud or there's been a fraud against the government, you can definitely contact us there, and that number is on our website. I don't know it off by heart
That's
at
okay.
this moment. So
That's why we have the internet.
and of course, your local police is where you should be reporting the initial frauds.
And also I want to make sure when you go to this website, because we talk about hovering, make sure when you go click on the website, it's the right websites and not something that's directing you with the extension when you hover over it that can lead you somewhere else.
Right, just ensuring where you are at is the legitimate site. Again, these scammers have the technology working with them these days. There's spoofing with phone numbers. You can no longer trust your call display, for example, as well as they have masking technology to make their emails appear like they're coming from, let's say, China, or they're coming from a different location, the US, so that you're believing who you're in contact and doing business with is actually located in those countries, when actually they could be next door to you.
So sometimes they are next door to you. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So Jennifer, if you don't mind, please, if you can just give a message out there from yourself or on behalf of the RCMP, just look out there and just give a message of what they can do coming up.
Okay, I would most likely just take the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre slogan,
Go ahead.
which is recognize it, report it, and stop it. And just side note, my own information that I would recommend is discuss fraud. The way that we can prevent fraud is if we discuss it, we do our due diligence, we learn about the current scams at the family dinner table, just a few minutes. It's nice to talk about it. Any frauds that you've heard from other people, it makes people aware of what types of frauds are out there and will help to prevent it. So that's what I would say.
Well, thank you. Well said. I just want to say to everyone, I want to thank all my guests. This truly is a special day for me, a special month, because of what I did and why I became where I am right now was all because of this book, Mrs. Fraud and You, Will You Be the Victim of Victor When She Comes Knocking? You can always go to www.mrsfraudandyou.com to get a copy of the book. And I mean, it's a very simple book. A 10-year-old can read it, a 100-year-old can read it. But it has a lot of generic information in there, and it's just a book to guide you. So I really want to thank so much Lisa for being on the show as a victim. When I first met Lisa, like I said, she was not a person who wanted to talk about this openly, and now she's very open about it, and she's actually in the book. And she will be on my other book as well. But being an advocate, we will be doing a lot of work with her to be, bring the awareness and be the voice out there, which I am so proud of her. For Staff Sergeant Ron Boyce, again, he's working with the community, and I wanted to bring Ron on because I want people to see it doesn't matter, you don't have to be sitting in a police station where it's only about fraud. It happens everywhere in the community, and him being out in the community, working with the youth and so forth, have to be an advocate and sees a lot happening. And of course for Jennifer, what can I say about Jennifer? It's always, she'll be back. I'm sure she'll be back. But again, this is our part that we're doing here, and I know it's not much, but I really felt for March Prevention Month, I had to do my part. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't do this piece of it to be an advocate and talk about as much as we can. But there's so much to talk about and so much to do, and it's very difficult to do it in just 1 hour. So Jennifer, we could be back, and we'll be back again. I welcome you back to come and give me some tips and updates on that, and you're always welcome. So for everyone out there, please do your part. As Jennifer said, Speak to your neighbor, the dinner table, a friend, something you heard. Just pass on the message. Put it on social media or maybe just some conversation, because you never know what that person is going through. And this is one of the things I've found is I would get phone calls from people referring people to me. But the point is, do your part, protect yourself, and be safe, and just look out, because you just never know. Because to get and recover from identity theft and fraud scam is not the easiest thing in the world, and it can be devastating. So do your part, do your homework, and be due diligence. Until next time at the DNA Show, be safe and protect yourself.
Good day. My name is Shane Supal, and we're back today to talk about items that are on your mortgage that you may want to consider when you're about to renew. Now, have you explored all your options? Are you comfortable with the payments that you are getting on your renewal? Will you be selling soon? Debt consolidation. Are you getting the best rates? Have you looked at variable versus fixed? These are just some of the topics you may want to consider when you get that mortgage renewal from your financial institution. This is where Avanti Financial Services, your full-service mortgage brokerage, will be able to assist you. What you need to do is, once you get your renewal, you call us up and we can review that renewal with you and figure out what is the best option based on your circumstances. Again, my name is Shane Supal. My phone number is 416-407-8403, 1-866-839-4449, or on the web at www.avanti-financial.com.